Hey, welcome back. Let's talk about a repository, a source repository, a very popular one called Git, and why it's absolutely necessary that you understand it as a beginner programmer, what a repository is, how to work with it, and why it's important, even if you're just working for yourself, maybe you're trying out stuff. But yeah, a repository will definitely help you in your journey to become a pro programmer. So what is a repository? Well, it's a central location. You can think of it like a file server. If you've ever worked with a central server where you store files and somebody else is also accessing them. That's part of what a repository is. It's a central location for your software project, where you store all the source code files. Usually in a bigger project, you don't have just one file that you're writing your code in. You've got several. You structure your code in different building blocks, classes, and usually these classes are defined in several files, not just one. And the repository stores these files in a central location, but not just your sources, but also any graphic files, JPEGs, audio files, videos, whatever your program needs to work properly. And in software development, a popular repository to use is Git. And Git is basically a collection of all the changes made to the code over time. Because you see, in difference to a file server, it just doesn't store the most recent version. And if somebody opens a Word document and does some edits and stores them again on the file server, if you don't have any file history, then usually the changes that were done before are lost. You're basically overwriting the contents of the file with the new changes. And with Git, you keep the changes. You can always go back because in Git and in repositories in general, a commit is something where you save your changes in the code. Maybe you just added one line in one file, or maybe you did, I don't know, a couple of dozens of hundreds line changes in several files. And commits allow you to track now this history of changes in your code. Commit is basically telling Git, okay, I'm done with my changes, take them and store them as a new version, but don't lose all the changes done before. Basically, add my changes to the list of the history of changes before. That's what a commit is, and that's the most fundamental building block of a repository. It's basically a history of these changes, a history of commits. And another important concept to understand is the concept of branches. You see, in Git, you just don't store a single version history, a single set of changes, one after another. You can basically say, well, let me try something, and I'm going to do my changes, but if somebody else is doing some changes on the same code, on the same file, then they have their own version, and we all work in our branches. It's like when you're going through a forest, there's lots of forests in Austria, and if you're going there on your way, you come to a waypoint where you can go left or right. So this is what a branch is basically. We say that we start from a common history that we have together, but now I'm going my branch, I'm going left and you're going right, and we all make our changes independently from each other in the same file. And that's something that Git allows you to do. Now, the question you might have is, well, how does this make sense, right? Because either one of us has to sort of override the other's changes. No, that's where another concept is coming into play. That's the concept of merging, because our two paths might join together, and I might have worked on one part of my app, of the software project, and my colleague has been working on another part, but we are affecting the same project's files there. So we have to merge our changes together. We say, well, I take the change from your side, from your modification there in this one line, and I take the next modification on the next line from your modification. So we're merging our changes together. And that's something that Git is quite capable of, and it's made this branching and merging concepts and actions very, very easy compared to the repositories that were available before. Another important term is the term of a pull request. A pull request is basically proposing changes that I've made in a Git repository, and it allows other developers, if we're working in a team, to review my changes and to provide feedback, and then discuss it with me before we are merging my changes back into the main branch. By the way, something that also is helping when we're talking about branches is when we're having several different versions out. Maybe we're working on an app and we've got the version 1.1 in the App Store, so it's available. And we discover a bug in this version 1.1, a very nasty one, so we need to fix it. So we create a bug fix version of 1.2, and we need to release it. But at the same time, independently from working on this bug fix version 1.2, there's another part of our team that's already working on the version 2.0. And they've already made some progress there. But of course, they don't want to, they started with 1.1. When they started the development for 2.0. So when I'm bug fixing something there, they want to merge my changes from 1.2, the one that's we're about to release on the App Store, into their branch of 2.0. Okay, so that's kind of hope that's not too confusing when I'm talking about this. It's easy if you just write it on a piece of paper and draw some lines there. But again, branching allows you to keep different versions of your software project in sync with each other. You track the different history commits there. You see what's going on, you know what changes you need to merge with whatever other changes. So this is what a repository gives you. It gives you a unified central place to store all the changes in all the files that make up your software project. And in addition, it allows you to have branches to say, well, I'm working on this version, or this is my modification, this is my bug fix. And it keeps you lets you keep track of all these changes in all these branches and allows you to merge them together. That's what a repository is. And if you're just getting started out, Git, that's Git, is a very important one that's used quite often.